Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of HSP TV. I am your host, Barbara, and today I am joined by the wonderfully out of the box, Mike Ashcroft. And I'm also sort of telling what our topic is going to be today, because today we are going to talk about being outside of the box. And I've been looking forward to this talk. We've had to reschedule it a couple of times, but I think a lot of people are feeling out of the box nowadays. So maybe it's a good place to start at what is out of the box for you.
I think as far back as I can remember, I've never been the same as everybody else. I've always been a bit of a rebel. I've never been good at being told what to do, and as a rule, I've just made my way through life, bouncing off one obstacle onto another obstacle. Uh,
Mhm.
and I don't like to be. I mean, it sounds a bit of it sounds like the same as being in a box. I don't like to be pigeonholed.
No, no, I get what you're saying. I don't like to be labeled, which is also what they do when they put you in a box, right? They label you, and I recognize what you're saying because for most of my life I felt weird and strange and extremely different from everybody else, and that led to me thinking that there was something wrong with me because most other people seemed to get on great and seemed to think roughly the same way and value the same sort of things, and they never seemed to understand why I was upset about something or why I cared so much about something, and that made me feel weird and
Yeah, I
strange,
recognise that. I recognise that.
right?
I mean,
And
even at school, um, we were all obviously, because that's the way school works, we were all roughly the same age. But I was
Mhm,
about 4 months younger because of where my birthday is in the year.
mhm, mhm,
And I never really slotted into everybody. Everybody else formed their gangs and their clubs, and I was always a bit on the edge. And I was never unhappy with that. It's not as if I was being felt I was being left out. I
mhm,
just wanted to observe things in the way I wanted to do them.
mhm. I recognize what you're saying. At school, and then I'm talking high school, we had two groups basically in my class. We had the cool kids who did stuff with their hair and their makeup and who had boyfriends and low grades, usually. And then we had the nerds who didn't care about appearance, who didn't care about boyfriends, and who loved to study and study and study and getting really high grades. And I was the one that had high grades, did something with my hair, and had a boyfriend. So I didn't fit in with the crowd that had a boyfriend because they had low grades. And at one point, I remember someone asking me, how long did you study for this test? And I had, our system works with zero being the lowest, 10 being the highest grade that you can get. And I had a nine. So I did really well. And she had a 6.5. So that was heels across, basically. And I said, well, I'm not sure exactly how long did you study? And she said, well, the entire week. And I even went into the entire night because I couldn't take everything in. And I crammed and I crammed and I crammed. And I thought, oh God, what I did was just look and think, oh, I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this. Oh, this I need to read. Okay. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, okay. No, good. I know it. And I know this, I know this, I know this, I know this. Oh, this is what I should read. Okay, done.
Yeah,
And I felt ashamed.
I never felt ashamed. I've always been proud of being lazy. My older brother, and I was always seen at school as highly intelligent, but
Mhm,
didn't want to do anything because I was bored. Because most of the way they taught in school in those days was boring,
mhm,
and my brother had to study like crazy to get good results.
mhm,
I just had to turn up to the exam because I had a very good memory, and I just used to turn up and do it. And he hated
mhm.
me for that. We used to have real fights because he put all the effort in, and I just breezed my
Please.
way through to the result. And
Yes,
that pretty much sums my life up.
I recognize that. I was the same. If I paid enough attention during class, then I needed to read it over and, come to the conclusion, oh, I know all of this. Okay, and then just show up for the exam and have a really good grade. I always thought that that was maybe because I was a girl, but you're saying your brother was someone who had to put a lot of effort in.
Well, he's been an old man since he was about 10 years old.
Ah,
So he's always been very serious, and I'm
mm-hmm,
the exact opposite of that.
mm-hmm,
I was always the class clown.
mm-hmm,
And I used to get bullied because I was a little fat kid, and because
mm-hmm.
my mum was German. So therefore, obviously, in a child's mind, she'd personally killed all the Jews, and
Yes.
therefore I must need hitting. So I was always being bullied. And my reaction, as a lot of people have found over the history, is to, if you make them laugh, they don't bully you quite so much. But
Mm-hmm.
the teachers didn't get the good side of that. They thought I should be serious and get down to work in class. And it was in particular with homework. I didn't see why, if I was there for 6 or 8 hours during the day, I should be expected to go home and use my valuable television time to do more work.
No.
So I was always getting into trouble for that too.
Yeah, I recognize that. Well, my brother is younger than me, and he was also the one who didn't take anything serious. So my dad kept telling me that my brother was smarter than me, but I was in the highest level of our education, getting really good grades, and he was in the lowest level of our education, mostly skipping classes because he was bored and he didn't want to put in the effort. So I never really saw how he could be more intelligent than me. So it's that's why I thought maybe it was a guy girl thing, that boys are just not really interested in school and more interested in everything outside of school, which might interfere. But that's also not a given.
No, in London, where I grew up, there was a thing called the 11 plus, which is a very important exam
Mhm.
that decided your future, basically. If
Yeah.
you passed the 11 plus, you got to go to a good school. If you
Hmm.
didn't, you got to go to a less good school.
Hmm.
I got the second highest results in the Greater London area. So I
Hmm.
got the Queen's Scholarship to a famous public school in Westminster.
Wow.
And I absolutely hated it
Hmm.
because it was a school that taught people how to be bullies. And I've always hated bullies.
Hmm.
And I lived a long way away from the school, so I had probably an hour and a half of buses and subways to get to school. So
No
by
fun
the time I
either.
got to school, I was fairly tired anyway. And being naturally lazy, I turned that to, saying to the school nurse, "Oh, I feel sick." So she would, I would miss Latin or maths or whatever it was.
Hmm.
But I was caned, sort of hit with a stick, probably every day.
Hmm.
And that was the norm. Even the prefects, as the fellow students who were at the top of the school,
Hmm.
they could hit you with a stick.
Wow.
And so I hated it. It was brutal.
Yes, I can
And
imagine.
I lasted there about a year and a half. And uh, we had an incident where I couldn't swim then, and I still can't swim now.
Hmm.
The teacher that taught you to swim after school in your own time was the religious studies teacher, who was always a bit questionable, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
So uh, he gave me religious homework, and I went to do the swimming class, went home, didn't do the homework, came into school, and he said, "Where's your homework?" And I said, "Well, obviously, I haven't done it, sir,
Hmm.
because I was kept at the swimming bath till 6 o'clock, and I wouldn't have got home till about 8."
Hmm.
So he took me to the headmaster to be paid, to be beaten again.
Hmm.
And the headmaster told me to bend over the desk. And I was only 11, but something in me snapped.
Hmm.
And I said, "No." And he said, "What do you mean, no?" I said, "Well, and I explained what had happened about the teacher keeping me late after school, thinking, well, obviously he would see that that was the reason, and perfectly reasonably, why I hadn't done my homework.
Yeah.
And he gave me two choices: either to be caned on the stage, beaten on the stage in front of the whole school in the following morning,
Hmm.
to be sacked, as he called it, which was thrown out the school. So I decided that I wanted to be sacked.
Yeah,
I
I would
walked out.
choose that too.
When I walked out the door, feeling quite a big man,
Hmm.
11, and went home and told my mum. She was furious because obviously I got this prestigious scholarship.
Hmm.
But I then went to a very second-rate school, which wasn't so second-rate because Piers Brosnan and Bob Hoskins also went there,
Okay.
and a couple of other famous people. It was just one of those
Okay.
sort of schools. But unfortunately, the bullying carried on
Hmm.
because I was proud of my mum being German, And I
Hmm.
probably told them like I had in the first school, that
Hmm.
my mum was German, and off they came again. So uh, I lasted till I was 15, and then decided I didn't want any more of this. It was time to go and get a job.
Hmm. Yes, but how horrible, to get back to the beginning of your story, that your teachers are using corporal punishment.
Yeah, it was normal then.
Yeah,
Six on the hand or six across your bottom, and if you cried, you often got another one.
yeah, yeah.
It was
It's
barbaric.
yes, that would be the word for it. And but it's mind blowing when you say things like that, because I thought it was the other children that were hitting you or beating up on
Well,
you.
they were having a go as well, so I wasn't having a very happy time.
No, but if it's both and your student, your peers, and your teachers,
Yeah,
whom you should have been able to go to for protection, but they are the ones being brutes. That's horrible, and I have no word.
but it's illegal in England now. But then it was,
Mm.
and so I probably got caned literally every day.
Hmm. Exactly, yeah. And I recognize the bullying part. I was bullied for most of my school years as well. And I think it has to do with the type of energy that we have. The bullies be bullies. Usually the bullies are the people that are also miserable in their own house and that are then sort of giving it forward, the wrong giving it forward, paying it forward type. But it's the people that they feel that they can victimize very easily, that they choose as the victims of their bullying.
Yeah, and they're always in a gang. They're always too much of a coward to do it themselves.
Yes.
So anyway, so I left school at 15 and got,
Hmm.
got a couple of very boring jobs, because you could go out of the school on a Friday and get a job on a Monday then. It's
Hmm.
not the same now. And then eventually that led to me having a set of circumstances where um, I had a health problem and ended up in hospital for some tests, and met a nurse there who I hadn't ever had a girlfriend, so I fell instantly in love with her.
Hmm.
And a day later, I proposed to her to marry, and she said yes. So we
Wow.
were 18 years old, playing at big adults, and so we got married, which was the most stupid thing I could have done. And
Yeah.
the more people said, "Oh, you're too young, don't do it,"
Hmm.
we were determined to do it. And then we had to move from one place to the next, because you could only get a 6-month rental place in London then. And we moved to one place where we were sharing a house with some very unsavory people, which, with hindsight, they were drug dealers. And so I was very concerned for my new wife, because I thought, I've got to go out to work and leave her here, and who knows what could happen.
Yeah.
So we went to the local police station, and I got speaking to the inspector there, and he understood completely, and he said, well, what we'll do is we'll raid your house, we'll raid you as well, so it looks like you're nothing to do with it, and then we'll sort the problem out. And he did. And at the end, afterwards, he said, look, why don't you join the police? And I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. I can drive around in cars with, be a show off and wear a uniform and, be something special. So I joined the police. And a more unsuitable thing for a person who doesn't like to be given orders, you can't imagine. But for a time, I put up with it. But it wasn't to last. And eventually I left after about 2 or 3 years. And it was an interesting experience. And it started me off on my sort of where will I go now zigzag life. I
Hmm.
had to find a job. And
Yes.
I sat down with a piece of paper and thought, what can I do? I can drive a
Hmm.
car, I can speak German because my mum's German. That was pretty much it. There wasn't much else on the list.
Yeah.
So I phoned the German embassy and said, I know this is a bit crazy, but what could you suggest? And she said, there's a German tourist company in London. Why don't you phone them? They might have an idea. And I phoned them and went to see this lovely lady the following day.
Hmm.
And we got talking, and I liked her very much. And she said, have you got a passport? And I said, yes, I have. She said, well, can you be here Friday morning and we'll start your job? I thought,
Okay.
I didn't know I had a job.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
my new job was to be as a tour guide,
Hmm.
initially going out on a plane to Germany, picking up a plane full of people, bringing them back for a London tour of 4 or 5 days, selling them tours on the bus, and then
Hmm.
looking after them in the hotel. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound too terrible. And I had an absolutely amazing time.
Hmm.
I was young and single by then because my new wife had decided she didn't want to be my wife anymore. So I was meeting lots of other people, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And that was what really got me into the bug for traveling. I did that for about 3 years. And towards the end, I was doing 6-week tours of Europe with groups of American high school kids and being paid a lot of money to just have a party.
Hmm.
It suited my temperament to the ideal situation.
Exactly. So you sort of, well, I don't know if it's by accident or by divine intervention, rolled into the perfect job for you with the qualifications that you have.
Completely, completely. And I only stopped doing it because I met a stewardess at one of the airports,
Hmm.
and we fell in. I fell in love in those days in about 4 seconds. And I was offered a job by the company I was with, saying to go to America to
Hmm.
organise these tours from there because they were useless at it. They'd had no idea what a map looked like in Europe. Their timings were always useless.
Hmm.
So to get her to come with me, she had to have a green card.
Hmm.
And to have a green card, she had to be married. So we got married very quickly, which was yet another silly mistake, but it lasted a long time.
Okay.
And then just before we were going to move out to America, the company went broke. So I
Oh.
had to go find a normal job. And I was still offered more travel jobs, but because I had a new wife and I didn't want to go away for a few weeks at a time, I
Hmm.
just went back to being boring.
Hmm. And do you regret that now, if you look back?
And I've sort of thought about my life in that I try never to regret anything because it
Hmm.
always leads you on to the next thing.
Hmm.
And you if an opportunity comes past you, I've got carpe diem written on my hand there, seize
Hmm.
the day, and that's been my motto for my whole life.
Hmm.
Because I was in a boring job, something 10% less boring came along, so I took that, and then
Okay.
something 20% boring came along, and I worked my way through to something more interesting.
Hmm. I love that philosophy. So, how would you say that being an out of the box person and probably also an out of the box thinker influenced your life?
I think I don't, the rules don't mean anything to me.
Hmm.
I mean, they do. I mean, I was a magistrate in a court, like a judge for 15 years. So I know all about rules.
Hmm.
I don't just ignore them, but I tend to look what's behind the rule and see if there's a better way for me to be. And
Hmm.
because I'm so clever, I always think I know better than everybody else.
Hmm.
And inevitably, I don't. But sometimes you make a mistake, sometimes you don't. But
Hmm.
I don't want to do it the way people tell me to do it.
Hmm. Yes, I recognize that. I think from the moment I was able to speak, I would say something along the lines of, "I want to do it myself, mom." But then, as a little child already, and my mother could never get me to do what she wanted. She needed to be very clever to get me to do what she wanted and make me believe that it was something I chose.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
yeah, I completely understand that. And I think the in the back of my head, I'd begun to get a taste for travel.
Hmm.
And because I was half German anyway, we spent most of our school holidays going backwards and forwards to my grandparents in Germany.
Hmm.
So, the idea of people having a caravan holiday in England in the rain
Hmm.
was not something I understood. I was always traveling.
Yes.
Not very, it wasn't exotic. It was to Germany, but
Hmm.
that was fairly exotic in comparison to a caravan in the rain.
Yeah.
So uh, I started going on better and longer and more interesting holidays, and ended up going to 103 countries. And I've seen most of the world, and it's been an absolute joy.
Hmm.
And you learn far more traveling than you ever do at school.
I agree. I love traveling as well. I'm in Germany almost every week, so that's funny as well. But do you find that your traveling influenced your out of the boxness?
Well, only in that in where I would go. I mean, for example, there was a TV show where these two guys that made up the show, one was in front of the camera, one behind it, and they would roll a dice and pick six places, and just whichever one it landed on, that's where the next program would be from.
Hmm.
And I was temporarily single, and I thought that's a great way of doing it. So I tried that, and I just wrote six places I'd never been to before.
Hmm.
One, it had landed on Reykjavik in Iceland. So 2 days later, I was in Reykjavik.
Hmm.
Well, I'm enjoying this life. This is, I mean, it was the most expensive holiday I think I've ever had. It's horrifyingly expensive there.
Yeah.
I had a great time and met another young lady. And there's a sort of continuing story along those lines. But I've loved every minute of the traveling.
Hmm.
And I've been to lots of places more times than once.
Hmm.
But I like to learn a little bit of the language, and maybe if it's only a couple of sentences, because the British people are so lazy, they
Hmm.
just speak English loudly and
Yes.
expect everyone to sort of jump on board.
The
Well,
funny thing is that Germans are known for that as well, that they
yeah,
only speak their own language and refuse to speak any other language. It's the Dutch that are known
oh,
for
the Dutch are the world's best.
wanting to learn, because that's exactly what I do. I want to engage in the culture. I want to meet new people. I want to at least have some basic phrases that I can say in the language of the country that I'm going to. I speak 8 languages outside of that, so in most countries I can make do with the languages that I speak. And if not, like when I went to Sri Lanka, I try to learn things like good evening, good morning, thank you, stuff like that. I love that.
Well, I had a Dutch girlfriend, so one of the first things I learned was Ik hou van jou.
Yes.
So, and there are certain sentences that you can get very well by in most languages,
Yes.
and if not, you just sort of pick it up by ear.
Well, Dutch and German are very similar, so
Yeah.
there are a lot of parallels between it. That definitely helps. But I think it's a mentality thing, right? Where
Mm,
I've never expected people to adjust to me. I've always been the one that adjusted to other people, and my travels have helped me embrace even more of my uniqueness because it taught me to be independent and to go places by myself. And this might be a little bit different for a woman as for a man, I'm not sure, but I'm a woman that was raised by a woman that was afraid of a rapist on every street corner.
right.
So traveling by myself, first time I was terrified because of all the stories that I had heard from my mother and all the fears and worries that she had placed on me basically. And the first time I went by myself somewhere, it was liberation of self,
Mm,
literally and figuratively, because I discovered that there are not rapists on every corner of the street, for one, but also that I could get by even if I go to a place where I don't speak the language. I can connect with people, I can get to where I need to go, I can have an amazing time. I learn a lot about culture, I learn a
mm.
lot about different types of foods, and I love that side of me.
And most places you go, people are lovely.
Yes,
I've
exactly.
got lots of Dutch friends. It's the only place I feel less than tall. And I'm 1 meter 86.
Oh
And
yeah.
almost every Dutch person that I know is at least half a meter taller than that.
The males for sure, yes. Me
Yeah,
not. I am the other way around. I'm 165. So
right. And they've all got the biggest feet. You must be amazing swimmers.
yeah, well, that's indeed true. Most are, if they have your size already, are wearing size 45, which in American sizes I don't even want to go into. And
Yeah,
it's big. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I think the Dutch people are also among the tallest people of the world, but I don't think the English people, the Germans for sure not, but the English are also not short, right?
We're not sure, but we're not in your league. But
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, most of Holland is under the sea level. So you need to be tall just in case, don't you?
Just think above the water, right? Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. Did that also influence? Because you said that when you were younger, you went through life as a fat, short person. Now, obviously, you are no longer short.
In my 20s, because I smoked, I
Hmm.
was quite slim and quite tall. So, and I didn't look like this. I looked really lovely.
You still look lovely.
And so, whilst I smoked, I carried on being slim. And well, I've always been tall now.
Hmm.
But as soon as I stopped smoking, I put on so much weight. And I've
Yeah.
spent the rest of my life trying to lose it.
Hmm.
I've got to the stage now where I'm 72 in a couple of months' time. And I've sort of, I've done everything I can do. And
It's a losing battle by now. I think
yeah,
you just enjoy life. I found that when I let go of all of these things, like I should be taller, or I should be thinner, or I should be prettier, or I should have my hair exactly like all the other girls. I've never been one to do that. I have naturally curly hair, and it has been any length from halfway to my calves, as well as spiky short and anything in between. And I also don't follow current fashion with clothes. If it's in fashion, then that's great. But I buy it because I like it, and I wear it because
absolutely.
I love to wear it, and not because it's in fashion.
Yeah, I don't generally dress like an English person. I mean, I wear brighter colors than English people usually do.
Hmm.
And I wear something because I want to wear it. I don't care if somebody doesn't like it.
Exactly.
It's not their opinion that I care about.
Hmm.
So that's pretty much sums me up, really. That if you're making any sort of comment about me, go ahead and make it because it means nothing to me.
No.
That my in terms of looks, my doctor says to me every time I go and see him, how much do you drink a week? And I always lie because everybody lies.
Hmm.
And as far as I'm concerned, the alcohol that I drink is a preservative because it's made me look this good at my age, so I'm going to carry on doing it.
Hmm.
You've got to die of something.
Yes. Yeah, but that's it. And I think that everything is okay with moderation. I don't think that drinking with moderation, smoking even with moderation. It's when we start smoking a lot a day, and when we cannot do without, or drinking a lot a day and cannot do without, that we can start seeing it as a problem. But I am all for enjoying life and being happy.
Absolutely. If not, what's the point?
Right?
We're only
Exactly.
here once.
Hmm.
So if I have to fill every day with as much experience and joy and interest that I possibly can, and people who just get into a rut, like my brother, for example,
Hmm.
who he's got a lot more money than me because I've spent all mine going around the world.
Hmm.
But I know which one's more clever than the other one is. So
Yes. But you don't
it's
have anything if you have lots of money in the bank, but you're unhappy because you never go anywhere and you never spend it. Then what's the point of having so much money in the bank? People often have this debate, right, around the question, does money make you happy? And I don't think that having money by itself makes you happy, because lots of people have lots of money in the bank and are very miserable. So money by itself doesn't.
mm,
But what it allows you to do, the things that you can do for yourself, the travels that you can go, the clothes that you can buy, massages, books, whatever you fancy, those are the things that are making you happy. So I think not having money definitely makes you unhappy.
yeah. Well, I'm lucky in that I retired 6, 7 years ago. So
Hmm.
I've got pensions and other money that's guaranteed that comes in. And
Hmm.
I'm never going to be rich from it, but it
No.
allows me to do as much as I want to do, and I consider myself very fortunate.
Hmm.
You know, I was in a long-term relationship until well, I was 66, and I wasn't happy towards the end. I hadn't been happy for some time, and I thought, well, I can either carry on doing this and be unhappy, or I can just leave. So, we tried many times to fix it and it wasn't fixable. So, in the end, I moved 30 kilometers away to a new town started my life completely from scratch again.
Yeah.
And everybody that knew me said I was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm much, much happier now than I ever was then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's if your life isn't happy, why bother? Just you know, close the window.
Yes, exactly. So, do you see yourself then as someone who just doesn't really care about what other people say or think about you?
I do now, yes. I mean, when I was younger, I cared a lot
Mm-hmm.
because I hadn't built my shell.
Mm-hmm.
But now, really, well, if you like me, that's great. If you don't like me, that's also great. I'm not bothered about it. And if you want to be my friend, then we'll be friends. If you want me to conform to a certain type of behavior, we're
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to be friends.
No.
So I have a close group of friends, and we're all a bit crazy, and we're all similar in outlook,
Mm-hmm.
and we meet up 3, 4 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
We're all within 10 years of age of me,
Mm-hmm.
and we just have a ball. We just laugh our faces off.
I love that.
That to me means a lot more than having a group of people you meet up with every week who, oh,
Mm-hmm.
got a new jacket, or okay, it's not my way of thinking or seeing life at all.
No, no, no. I completely agree with what you're saying. I have a couple of friends that sometimes I don't even see for a couple of years, but anytime we get together, it's like we saw each other yesterday
Yeah,
and we're having so much fun. And to me, that's much more valuable than having people who say they are your friend, but when you meet them, they are not home.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. So, how did you move from caring maybe too much about what other people thought and said about you to where you are now? Because a lot of people are struggling with this. So, what could you tell them about this process? What could they do?
In the end of the day, what they think isn't for my benefit. If they don't approve of what I'm doing, that doesn't help me. That just gives them an opinion.
Hmm.
So they can go and do what they want to do. I'll carry on doing what I want to do. And I
Hmm.
learned halfway through my life that it's my life. So
Hmm.
if you want to be there and be part of it, then that's great. We can have a great time, and we'll do some stupid things. But if you don't, well, that's fine. You go and do your life. There's plenty of
Hmm.
lives around.
Yes.
My life is in the box, outside of the box that people want to put me in.
Yes. But it's one thing to think it. A lot of people think they want to look at it this way, and when they look at it or listen to it mentally, they agree. But emotionally, they still get hurt when people reject them or when people say not so great things about them behind their back, and they find out later. How did you disconnect the feeling part or get the feeling part on board?
It's a bit like having a pencil box at school. And you've got lots of pencils, some long ones, some short ones, some sharpened ones, some that the end's broken off.
Mhm.
And you, until you try them all out, you don't know which are the best pencils.
Mhm.
So once you've got a few pencils that you really like and get along with, if one's that long and then the rubber is on the end, but there's no pencil lead, it's no use to you anymore. So
Mhm.
you just naturally discard that.
Mhm.
It's not a cruel thing. It's not like going up to someone saying, "I don't want to be anything to do with you anymore." It
Mhm.
just happened in my life organically,
Mhm.
and I assumed that I was driving that, but maybe I wasn't. So maybe it was just like everything else that's happened to me. It's just a series of accidents that have taken me in one direction.
Well, I do think that things change when we age, when we become older. I think we acquire life experiences and we acquire more wisdom, and that makes us look at things differently and experience things differently.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I genuinely think traveling helped me
Yes.
because you see so much variety of so many things. And
Hmm.
you think, well, that seemed important to me 6 months ago, but looking at it in the context of where I am now, it's
Hmm.
not important anymore. So,
Hmm.
they may want to carry on sort of going along the same direction that you are for a while, but
Hmm.
inevitably you outgrow them. That
Hmm.
sounds a bit callous and a bit selfish, but in the end of the day, your life is selfish. You've only got one, and
Yes.
you have to look out for number one and people around you that you love. Otherwise, you're just being controlled, and I've never been good at that.
No, and you do need to realize also that the people that come into your life, not all of them were meant to stay in your life.
Yeah, I
Some
agree.
people come in your life for a short amount of time, others come for a longer amount of time. And I've even had someone in my life that I thought was my best friend for 18 years, a very long time, that from one day until the next sort of disappeared and hasn't spoken to me since and is now ghosting me. So
Mm,
even when you think you know someone really well and you have a very close friendship, things can shift, things can change, and also change the dynamics, change the friendship. So I think in the end, what it comes down to is that you are you, and that you live your life unapologetically,
yeah.
enjoying the hell out of your love, out of your life, love life. So enjoying the hell out of your life and thinking, well, it's great if you want to walk with me on my journey for a while, and if we can have lots of fun and lots of laughter and great stories and things to talk about and maybe do some stuff together and having fun while doing it, that's awesome. And if at some point, for whatever reason, our paths veer off and I am walking my path further without you, well, that's life.
There's a very well-known analogy here about your life being on a train,
Hmm.
and that you get on the train at the beginning with your grandparents and your parents, and bit by bit people get off to different stops, and you work your way towards the front of the train, and then you never get to be the driver of the train, but you're always right at the top directing where it goes.
Hmm.
I think that describes what my life has been, and you described it very well with what you just said. You know, if you want to be with me for X amount of time, be that 3 months or 3 years or 30 years, then that's brilliant. But you know, that won't necessarily be the pattern for both of us forever.
No.
I don't think it's meant to be that way with human beings.
I don't think so either, but I used to think that unconsciously, I think. I
Mm.
sort of expected people when you are good friends and nothing special happens to just stay friends. And it's also further fueled by those people who made a best friend in kindergarten and are still very much connected as adults and sometimes even raising your families together in similar patterns. And I looked at that and I thought, I don't have that. I don't have
Ah,
people that I've known from that age. And I think that that also ties into being an out of the box type of person because we change so much. We
mm.
are like a work in progress that's never done. And it constantly evolves and evolves because of the travels, because of our ability also to look at ourselves and to think, well, why is this going on, or how could I have more of this or less of that, and heal maybe here a little bit so that I have more joy over there.
Yeah, and by allowing yourself to be open, it's not just people, it's skills and experiences that you get. I mean, I paint, and some of my paintings are behind me. Uh,
Mm,
and in 2008, my then partner and I went on a 4-month world cruise, which was wonderful.
mm,
But all she wanted to do was lie on a sunbed, and
mm,
that bored me. So
mm,
I tried to learn to play bridge and didn't manage to do that. And they had art classes, and I just fell in love with it. And I've done 500 paintings,
mm.
and I've had exhibitions and won awards, and and I'm pretty good at it. But if I hadn't gone on that cruise and if I wanted to lie on a sunbed, I would never have developed that skill. So
No.
you never know which direction life's going to twist you.
I love that you're sharing that because that is so true. As I believe that everything happens for a reason. The reason why things are happening are often not clear in the moment. Sometimes they become clear a little bit later on. Sometimes you feel like they never become clear. But if you can trust in the process and enjoy the journey instead of needing to have an end goal or needing to define everything or needing to know everything, but just be sort of open to the spontaneity of life,
Yeah, completely.
right?
And it's basically because I'm 7 years old.
Hmm.
I've never got past being 7 years old. And 7-year-old kids don't start wars. They don't want to have bad things happen. They just want everything to be new and shiny, and they're going to play with it immediately. And that's basically been the way my psyche has always been. I've
Yes.
never got past being 7 years old,
Hmm.
and I'm proud of that. You know, I'm 10 times more than that now, but
Hmm.
I never see myself as being my age. I always see myself as being about 23.
I recognize what you're saying. I've been celebrating the same birthday for a long time
Yeah,
because I don't feel the age that I actually am, and I feel that age, which is my birthday always. I'm not saying the number, but I recognize what you're saying, and then I think that that is also part of being an unconventional, out of the box type of person, because most people lose their childlike innocence,
mm,
their childlike wonder, but definitely their childlike playfulness. Everything becomes so serious and so heavy and so bogged down and so responsible.
yeah. I've never fallen into that trap. I'm still genuinely between my ears a child in many ways.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm, to look at, I'm an adult, and I've sent people to prison when I was a magistrate and all sorts of responsible things.
Hmm.
But I still look at a bird in the morning and think how amazing it is.
Hmm.
Or lots. There are any number of things like that. I'm very visual, and
Hmm.
I like to have lots of things to experience because
Hmm.
that's what kids do.
Hmm.
And hopefully I will never get to the point where I've grown up.
No, I help you hope, and I understand what you're saying, because when I coach people, I often take them walking in the woods,
Mhm.
and especially the people that are in a burnout or close to a burnout or with lots of stress, they walk very fast. I don't participate in that fastness. I walk a lot slower. Usually that annoys them to no end because I'm going so slow. And then I ask them, what did you notice from your surroundings? And they're like, well, trees, right? Trees
Mm.
everywhere, trees. And I like, did you see that beautiful field with all those purple flowers over there? And they're like, field? Purple flowers. And that's in general what happens to most people. We are so focused on the end result, on getting enough money, having the perfect family, the perfect house, the perfect car, the perfect job, whatever it is that we're focused on, and we're high speed tailing it in that direction, and then our surroundings sort of fall away. While when I am walking in the woods, I like to look around and really take everything in. And often I think, oh, that's a new trail. I don't know that one yet. Oh,
Yeah.
let's go explore it. I have no idea where it will lead me, but I'd love to find out. And then I follow it. And then moments later, I come at a spot that I do recognize. And I thought, oh, is it ending up here? That's so cool.
And touch a couple of trees on the way.
Yes. I
You
often
know,
stand with my back against certain trees. I found one tree, its roots have grown into a chair, and then you
all
can
right.
sit on them with your back against the bark. It's amazing.
Send me the address.
Yes, I will. It's my favorite place to meditate because it's perfect, right? How can you ground any better than literally sitting on the roots of a tree?
I'm very lucky where I live because it's although it's a new estate, it's in a very old part of the country.
Hmm.
Within 5 or 10 minutes of leaving my house, I'm in a city that's 2,000 years old.
Hmm.
Or there's a beautiful lake or a nature reserve, and
Hmm.
any direction I go in, I'm very lucky. There's something lovely to look at.
I
So,
have the same.
especially when we had COVID and lockdown,
Hmm.
you were allowed one little walk every day, and all of a sudden the skies were clear because there were no airplanes.
Yes.
There was
Sunny blue.
birds. The birds were like crazy.
Yes.
The weather was better than anybody remembered it, and it was all a bit strange.
Yes.
But it was like somebody restarted the batteries.
Hmm.
If you wanted to, you could benefit from that and see the world in a better way.
Hmm.
Most people didn't.
No.
They
Most
were
people
just,
were frightened or angry or any type of negative emotion. There was a lot
mm,
going on. And that was actually what sort of forced me out of my house because all of a sudden everybody was home and I couldn't handle all this negative energy from people close to me, around me, and all the houses around me. And I'm like you, I live in a very old town and I have beautiful nature everywhere I go. And within 5 minutes, I'm in the middle of the woods. And I started walking because my government closed down my business mandatory for 9 months. I didn't want to, but there was no other option. And
mm,
I started walking, 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 walking. And I saw the same things that you saw. Uh, the skies were blue. It was what would be the right word? Unconventionally warm. And
mhm.
the birds were everywhere, and all the animals were everywhere. And I thoroughly enjoyed spending so much time in nature.
Mm. I mean, people talk about how we've got climate change and how we're going to destroy the planet.
Mhm.
We're not going to destroy the planet. We're just going to destroy us. I mean,
Yes.
that was a perfect example of Earth going, well, here we are. You're not doing anything. This is what I am.
Hmm.
And the planet will go quite happily on without us if we destroy ourselves.
We've had multiple ice ages happening, and there's also sort of the planet resetting itself. So
Yeah.
yes, that's not unthinkable. No.
So who knows? I mean, we all think of ourselves as immortal,
Hmm.
and a very famous radio DJ died today in England, and he was only 69. And I keep hearing things like that. And I
Hmm.
keep thinking they're younger than me. They're younger than me.
Hmm.
And then, but I don't see myself as an age.
No, I
You know,
agree.
I'm just me.
Mm.
I don't behave like a person my age should. I don't listen to music like a person my age should.
Hmm.
I don't wear boring old clothes. Like, I mean, this isn't particularly exciting, but I've got some very, very loud shirts,
Yeah.
and people look at me like I'm a little bit eccentric, which I'm quite happy with.
Hmm.
Just eccentric. I'd rather be eccentric than boring and stuck in a box with the lid trying to be nailed down.
I've made a friend on my walks. She is also walking, and we became friends after running into each other multiple times over and over again on the walk. And she is white like you. And then her front lock, she painted neon pink. And that just already tells me she's an out of the box type of person because she also does, and also the very loud shirts and very expressive in what she wears. And I love it because she's so not the stereotype old woman that most people think old people should be.
Well, that's the point. It's what other people think.
Yes.
And if you're in the box, then that's the way you live your life. If you're outside of the box, you don't really listen to those people.
Hmm.
Because I make my own rules. Sounds like you do as well.
Yes.
So we're out of the box, and in fact breaking the box up and
Yes.
set it for firewood.
Yeah, exactly. If you want the box here, you can have it.
Yeah, I've got a spare one down in the garden somewhere.
Exactly. So we're running we're nearing the end of our time together. But um, if you could give one last piece of advice to people who are actually outside of the box but are still trying to put themselves in the box because they think that that's supposed to be the way you live life, what type of advice would you give them?
Find a mirror, look at yourself, and if you're not a person who's in the box, and you realize it, because so many people don't realize that they're really the wrong person at the wrong type of life that they're living.
Hmm.
If you realize that you should be outside the box, then find a way to do it. There are thousands of ways to do it, and each one may suit you better than another one. I'm
Hmm.
not saying my route in life is unique, and should all follow me because I'm some sort of guru. I've just had my life, and
Hmm.
I've fallen over things and generally gone on finding the next problem. So
Hmm.
if you think your life is like that, maybe find your best friend and talk to them and
Mhm.
just say, you know, this, I don't think I'm doing this right.
Mhm.
This doesn't feel like me. And what do you think? Do you see me as this, or do you see me as that?
Mhm.
And they may see you as in a box, in which case
Yes.
you've picked the wrong friend.
Yeah, and it can also be that you feel like you have no real friends or you don't have a person with whom you feel comfortable talking about these things. And obviously, you can reach out to me. I would be more than happy to talk to you and figure out what type of person you are, an in the box, an out the box, or an in between the box. You never know. But I can also imagine, and the people felt very inspired by your story today, Mike. So if they
I
wanted
hope
to
so.
reach out to you, where could they find you, or what would be the best way to do that?
I'm on Facebook. I'll give you the link.
Mhm.
I was on LinkedIn, but I didn't really use it very much because I was about to retire. So I didn't want lots of people offering me jobs when I didn't want them.
Yeah,
But I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook rather. I've even, believe it or not, got a TikTok account, but I didn't use it very much. It just made me
very
feel.
modern.
But the best thing is Facebook. If you
Awesome.
haven't already got the link, I'll send you the link.
Yes, I'll make sure that the link to reach Mike will be included in the show notes, along with the ways in which you can reach me. So, you, audience, listener, viewers out there, I would love it if you could let us know by leaving a comment below this video. What was your biggest insight after listening to our talk today? What was the thing that stood out most for you? We would love to hear from you. And while you're at it, it would also be amazing if you could like this episode and maybe subscribe to the channel. And if you're feeling really generous, share this episode with your followers, because you never know who you know that's a closet in the box person that should be an out of the box person that needs to hear this conversation. And you'll be doing them an utmost service by sharing this episode. For right now, Mike, I'm very grateful that you were here today and that you came and talked to me about this very important topic. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
I am so glad. Well, this was it for today. I would love it if you could come back next week for another interview. And for today, I wish you an amazing rest of your day. And until next time,
Tot ziens.
tot ziens.